Hey guys, it's Charles Beasley and welcome to Good Clinical, a podcast dedicated to showcasing the future of medicine and human health. On today's episode is another in our partnership with Te Titoki Mataora, MedTech Research Translator. Today's guest is Dr. Xuxu Amoozegar-Montero. Xuxu is the founder of Oona, a company looking to solve many of the problems around bras, of all things. Welcome to the podcast, Xuxu. It's great to have you today. Let's get straight into it because what are the problems with bras?
Well, there's a numerous amount of problems with bras. Not only does it just start with the actual design, they're widely uncomfortable, and a lot of bra wearers will know that. The actual system around purchasing a bra or getting your bra fitted, there is a lot of problems with it being inconsistent, confusing. Also, the manufacturing part of bra making is widely unsustainable. There's huge return rates, which lead to huge waste. And so there's a full kind of every part of the ecosystem, there's an issue with it, essentially.
So it's like end to end, there's a lot of solutions required for these problems. A lot of problems requiring solutions, shall I say.
Yeah.
And what inspired you to look into this? Because this is, one doesn't wake up and go, hang on, there's a few problems here. Let's look into these. What was the inspiration?
I shared the same bra frustrations with a lot of people, but it's one of those things that as a bra wearer, you don't realize how uncomfortable or how bad the system is until you take a second to think about it. As a student, as an industrial design student, we use lots of cool technologies, and 3D scanning was one of them. And it sounds weird, but we were 3D scanning different parts of our body. And I was like, oh, how cool would it be if you could scan your breasts and 3D print something that perfectly fit you? Because everyone has two different sizes, like two different breasts, and the bras that we buy are symmetrical and just fit a certain shape. So just experimenting, and then that kind of just build up into, wait, let me research this properly and see how big the issue is besides my own personal one. And it kind
interesting.
of built up from there.
Because we kind of just, when you go to a clothes store for any kind of garment, right, there are typically 4 sizes: small, medium, large, extra large, and maybe a few others if you're lucky. And I suppose that extends to also bras. Obviously I am not a bra wearer by any stretch of the imagination, but I always find it funny how, if you're a medium shirt wearer, going to the large is a bit of a jump. So if you're in between those two sizes, it's like, this sucks. So it must be all the more apparent in the context of bras.
Yeah, absolutely. Bras do come in slightly more sizes, but they rely on only 2 measurements, like over the bust circumference and under the bust circumference. And just with those 2 measurements, we're supposed to be able to size a part of your body that is so different than the rest of your body. It needs a lot more support. Functionally, it's moving. People have different weight in their breasts. And so we're not all supposed to fit into like the same type of bras. So there's a huge gap there.
Yeah. And what is... I'm sure there's a raft of solutions to this in particular, but you and your collaborators have zeroed in on a really interesting solution to this problem. Again, was that secondary to all your discoveries around the 3D modeling and then fabrics and all that kind of jazz and solving these problems?
I guess coming from an industrial design background, or looking at innovating or using technologies to kind of solve a problem or help solve a problem, but also at a more approachable scale, or like a mass scale. Like, we don't want to just design something that can't be used by a mass market in a way. So 3D printing and 3D scanning and all these type of technologies can help make customization, or things that we used to think to be very expensive or tailor or take too long. We can make it quite quickly and approachable for lots of different people and a lot cheaper. So looking at that and thinking of that, we just thought, wouldn't bras be so perfect if they were custom? And every person has a different body and has different unique requirements, let alone sizing. So using these technologies for that problem, we thought was the perfect match.
Yeah. Oh, naturally, you go from, very blunt tools, shall we say. I mean, we don't, you're kind of waiting for the technology to enable the solution. Is that fair to say? I mean, otherwise you're kind of confined to the small, medium, large, or the two measurements that are made. Whereas the technologies that are required to make this possible, make that custom fit, have only kind of become available recently, and from which you can leverage it, or are these kind of older technologies
kind of
that
like
have not been
half right? Like the 3D scanning is probably relatively new when being able to use it on your phone, which is quite amazing. That means anyone can scan themselves at home. You don't need a big 3D scanner. But the way we're manufacturing our bras enables us to have a fully mass customization level. We're using 3D knitters, and they've been around since the 70s, and they're most commonly seen like in Flyknit shoes, like Nike Flyknit shoes, or like a lot of sports material use that high-tech knit. It's great for compression or breathability, but you could also knit a piece of garment all in one piece. So you don't need to start stitching different parts of the bra together. We can scan yourself, use those measurements, and knit one garment that fits your shape and has 3D shaping around it. And so in that aspect, these knitters have been around for ages, but they haven't been fully utilized in the way that they could be to their full capability.
Why is that? Is it materials, or is it just no one's looked into it? I mean,
I think I think it is a bit one of those things that in the bra world, we're so used to doing things the same way that it hasn't been really innovated. Like the actual bra design hasn't really changed since its conception, So over 100 years, like the main elements of a bra hasn't changed. There might have been slight innovation in material, but so probably cost as well. People, didn't want to spend the time on it, but there's so much you can do. So it's quite exciting.
Right. So really it's about 3D scanning an individual, getting their structure, plugging that into an algorithm to convert that to a garment that would be suitable for their shape, size, volume, all the different parameters.
Yeah.
And then you're 3D sewing, knitting, printing that garment to that shape with all like the shape and support and compression where required needed. Is that kind of
yeah, that's pretty much it. It's 3D scanning, goes through a multitude of different formulas and algorithms, and then it gets sent to the machine like a digital pattern, and it's knit in one piece. And instead of flat pieces like traditional like garments that you wear, or like clothing that you wear, is flat pieces that are sewn together to create a 3D shape. What's different here is that we can understand your breast volume and then create a seamless 3D shape that can support that volume without having to sew or do extra pieces together. Because again, for bra wears, wires are really uncomfortable, but also seams are uncomfortable and they dig in all around you.
Right. So doing away with that would be a much more comfortable experience for all involved. Yeah. That's incredible. And these like 3D knitting, is it 3D knitting? Sorry.
Yeah.
Machine? Yeah. Are these like more or less not off the shelf, but you know what I mean? It wouldn't require like a bespoke 3D knitter to make this. So provided you've got the scanning down, the algorithm down, any kind of company that has access to a 3D knitter could
produce it.
Sew that garment. Or
yeah, absolutely. And that's the plan, right? Like initially we're working with a few manufacturers, a few 3D knitting partners, but the goal would be to do more local manufacturing where you just send it to the customer's closest knitting machine, which will save time, but also help with sustainability.
Yeah, that's remarkable. Okay, so that's the problem, and this is the solution. how do we make this solution a reality? So you have partnered up with, you've got some co-founders that have supported you along with this journey. You've also got the support of KiwiNet as well as Te Titoki Mataora. Can you take us through the kind of journey from taking this from purely an idea to like, this is a real world potential solution, let's make this happen?
Yeah, so I'm really fortunate that a lot of this research and problem solution work kind of came through my PhD research at the university, and being in that space led me to work with my advisor, who's now co-founder, Edgar Rodriguez, and he's been a part of the MedTech community for a while now, and so we leaned on that, and we were lucky to have the support there. We further, since the bra issue is such a wide, big problem, we decided to narrow down on a smaller niche of bra wearers, and we looked at people who had breast cancer and then breast surgery to look at their needs first. And so that, being able to look at that kind of aspect of it led us to the REP2 and REP3 grants, which really, really pushed us to think of this commercially and think about how we could build something out of it, I guess. And yeah.
So I suppose when you're starting these things, you do have to be cognizant of your eventual market, but going to the ultimate market and spreading yourself really thin might not be the best first choice. So in making this a reality, you have selected your first candidate kind of target market, right? Being those patients that have had some kind of breast surgery.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was quite a frustrating decision because we really just were like, well, anyone can use this. Anyone who has breasts and wears a bra should be able to use it. And because it's custom, there shouldn't be a target market or a niche. And we wanted to just widen it as much as possible. But with mentorship and support of people who've actually created companies, advised us, like, why don't we look at a smaller group, test it here in New Zealand and Australia, see what feedback we get and how it kind of works, and test the systems before we go general and try and go global too fast.
Sure, yeah. So it's like get the first aspects done correctly to build upon it.
Yeah.
For the ultimate goal of having it available for everyone.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And the beautiful thing about it too is looking at people who've had surgery have the most bra issues and bra frustrations and most kind of bra needs, that if we can solve those issues, then it's easier and it still helps everyone else.
Oh, right. It's like playing on maximum difficulty.
Yeah, a little bit, yeah.
So then every other level thereafter should be easier.
Surely.
Right, yeah. Interesting. So how, so with the REP2, so the Research Accelerator Program, REP2 and REP3 grants from Te Titoki Mataora, what do they enable you guys to do? So they're more like the proof of concept and then the scale up grants, aren't they?
Yeah, so like that big chunk between 3D scanning and the actual knitting there's, like I said before, a huge amount of different algorithms and different programs that we've been developing to make that connect and be seamless. Part of that is work that we've been doing at a REP2 and through the collaboration with Auckland Bioengineering Institute, Julie, who works there. And so REP2 really helped us create that collaboration with the bioengineers there, which is amazing. Like being able to work with other people from a completely different perspective in a different university has really helped us. But also, it's such an important part of the whole project. So that was REP2. And then REP3 was, okay, cool, like you have a good idea. You can, we have like MVP of different parts that's working, getting some good feedback, but how do you actually make it commercially viable? And what's your go-to-market plan? How are you reaching people? Who are you partnering with first? Yeah.
Yeah, what was those experiences like coming from your academic and then prior to that design background? Now you're fully immersed in, kind of business plans and figuring out how you're going to your go-to-market strategy and your IP and all your other implications.
So that was tough. I mean, so parallel to the Wrap 2 and 3, we were lucky to get some funding from KiwiNet, tier 2 funding, and alongside Wrap 3, they really, really pushed us to start thinking in that business mindset, which we had never really done before, especially most of us and co-founders have a design background, and so we keep getting stuck into the actual design, or we really care about our customer and the design of the product and the user experience. But so it made us start thinking about, okay, but the product doesn't need to be like 110%. We just need to get it out there. We need to get it moving. We need to understand the numbers behind it. We need to understand, all those type of things that we never really had to think about before.
Yeah, I mean, it's a tale as old as time, right? Like a founder that comes from a technical discipline, whether it's industrial design or if it's science or whatever, always gets drawn back into wanting to do more of that. That discipline, because that's their bread and butter. But like you really do have to expand your horizons. Expand your skill set to make these things a reality. Like you can't eventually, once you're CEO and you've got a whole bunch of people doing everything for you, maybe not. But when you're starting things out, you've got to really get your fingers in a lot of pies and work in realms that you're not per se that comfortable with. What was the trickiest part for you in this whole process to date?
There's a lot of things that you have to think about, like kind of projecting or thinking about 5 years, 10 years down the line about how this company is going to be formed, or how much money it's going to be making, or how are you going to grow, or who you're going to sell to, what's your exit strategy before you even incorporate it. So we're just like, I was like, we're not even a company yet, and we're still trying to figure out our like product, but we need to think about our company's exit strategy. So being able to think like that, I think, was tricky but so valuable, and I understand how important it is. But that was really hard.
Yeah, that's interesting. Kind of have to break your mind, right, and start thinking about things that well in advance. I just want to get back into the design. I want to design the best thing possible. But you need to do all these other things in order to make the best thing that will serve those people in the future. And what was over the course of this journey? What's been your favorite part? The most rewarding, shall we say?
Definitely being able to work with so many different types of people. Like we have a really, really great advisor at the moment, Shama from the US, who was part of Think's Period Underwear. And so she comes with an amazing amount of knowledge in this space. And then having lots of, I kind of call mini mentors or mini advisors over the time, people who've come in, listened to our story, listened to our problems, and kind of injected little different things to think about, or different pieces of advice, or connect us with other people. So being able to talk to lots of different people and having other people give us the time of day to ask questions, that's been my favorite part, definitely, meeting so many different people in this space and being able to connect. And I think that's definitely a New Zealand thing. I think I'm glad to do this in New Zealand because of that as well.
Yeah, I do feel I've had similar conversations with other founders, and they've all said that, the industry or the network is very collegial. Everyone is more than happy to sit down and have a coffee or, have lunch or whatever and talk it through. I'm not sure about you, but I oscillate between, supreme arrogance and imposter syndrome, like on a daily basis, like a metronome, back and forth. But it was quite humbling to me, or inspiring to me, how, even reaching out to a few people, just how willing people are to like give their time, especially if you're, like you would have come with a lot of, thoughts in hand, ideas in hand, prepared, willing to do the work as well. And that obviously served you well too. You don't just turn up and be like, oh, tell me what to do. But,
No, I definitely agree with that though, because I have had a lot of conversations that were like, you really don't get this, and I definitely know more than you, and I trust my gut. But to have had that conversation and hear their perspective and why they would be asking those questions or why they think a certain way about what we're doing, that's still pretty valuable as well, even though if it's not directly helpful. So learning how to communicate your idea, I think, is really important as well. Talking about bras and bra wears like to a room full of men a lot. So being able to communicate that this is a real issue, and it's, I don't know, explaining to someone who's never worn a bra before, for example. So learning how
has
to...
that been difficult?
Yeah, sometimes, definitely. Like I said before, like some people get it, they understand why this would be an issue. Others absolutely do not, and you have to start from the very beginning of, this is what a bra is. This is what bras come in.
So fast forward 5 years, putting you on the spot here, with these questions that I'm sure you've had to answer to your investors or collaborators. But, where do you see Oona in say 5 years? Is it, global domination, or are we, getting the product right and making a perfect product before launching into a smaller market segment?
Yeah, it's hard to say. I mean, definitely, hopefully by 5 years, we are reached out to a general market and that it is global. Everything we're doing is preparing us so that it's directly sent to the customers. I don't see why we can't go that route. We want to work with post-surgery market now, but with the idea that we're going to be quickly targeting everyone. So yes, global domination by 5 years.
Excellent. And will it always just be bras, or are there other potential avenues that you could take this 3D scanning, 3D knitting technology into?
I mean, the technology and the development that we're working on definitely lends itself to other products. I think there's so much work to do in bras, so I don't think we're going to leave bras anytime soon. But there's other things that are, similar that would probably be looked at as well. Like I know there's issues with like body armor, for example, for women and their breasts not fitting properly. So kind of things like that. But it could be any part of your body as long as you can scan it, gather measurements.
Yeah. Something like gloves, hats, underwear. For men more so probably.
Gloves is actually a big issue. People do complain about gloves.
I hate wearing gloves. I think I had this exact conversation with your co-founder, Edgar Rodriguez, and we were talking about how annoying it is that gloves typically don't go to all the way to the end of one's finger, so you end up with this kind of space that feels weird because it hasn't been surrounded by the glove digit.
He has a really big issue with gloves.
We definitely connected over that shared frustration with gloves. Okay, so if we just to go back to the kind of business case or the concept behind the product, just to really drive it home for myself, but also for the listeners. So in 5 years' time, where you're in a general market, so if I'm a customer that was requiring one of your products, I could essentially 3D scan myself in the comfort of my own home or at a fitter if I wanted to go down that route. Order the exact that data would be submitted to you guys. It would be kept, I imagine, securely, private. It's fairly sensitive data there, and then that would spin out through the algorithm. That would spin out a model that would advise the sizing and the structure of the garment for that person, and then that data would get sent off to a knitter, and that garment would then get shipped.
Directly to That's pretty much it.
Top of the class. Class of one.
That's exactly it. The idea is that you can scan yourself, and those measurements would be applied to any bra style or any product that would be on our website or the shopping app. And once you scan yourself, you can save it, so you wouldn't have to rescan every time you want to buy something. You could make an account. But of course, your body changes all the time. So if you wanted to reskin, those would be reapplied to the bras again.
And I suppose not everyone would like the same feel, right? So it's not necessarily just size, weight, volume, all these different ideas. Is there other kind of subjective measures that kind of feed into the algorithm? Do you like really tight fitting, or do you like looser fitting, or do you like more support, or do you like less?
Yeah. So at this stage, we're focusing on the biggest issue, which is sizing. And if you have the right size, then it should feel and fit a lot better. But we really want to get into looking at how to be able to customize, like you said, like the amount of support, the amount of compression, the type of feeling that you have that are more subjective, because every time we talk to people who are wearing bras, they want something a little bit different, and they wear their bra slightly different, not just how it looks, but how it feels and the activity they do, how much movement they do. So that is something we definitely want to go down that route.
Yes. I suppose how many dimensions do you want to be able to customize across, right? Like you can't do them all. It's a bit like, do we go to global domination straight away, or do we get the first market right? Like you have to start with the top 5 variables, I suppose, and then build up from there.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, like, as a customer too, there's a point when it's like too much customization. You're like, well, I'm doing so much work. Like, I don't even know what I want now,
Totally.
So again, we really want to simplify the process, the fitting process, simplify the purchasing experience, simplify what a bra is in a way as well. Like, really stripped down, minimal, fully on sizing, fit, comfort, and support. And that's it.
Yeah. I was listening to a podcast recently, and this guy said that, back in the 70s, when you would purchase jeans, it would probably be 1 or 2 styles. So if the jeans didn't fit, like, well, too bad. It's just because there's only 2 jeans. But like now there's a bajillion different jean styles. And if you don't get they're not right for you, it's because, you're an idiot. You didn't choose the right one, So in some cases, too much choice, like you said, I mean, decision fatigue is one thing, and then also just too complex.
Yeah, and that's like kind of circling back to one of the major issues of bra fitting is every bra brand sizes their bras differently or has different fitting or measuring methods to find your size. So if you do have a size in one brand, you might be a different size in another brand. And so it's really confusing. There's so many cases of people having 20 different tabs on their screen when they're online shopping to compare, like, okay, I'm a 12C in this size, I'm this and this size. So we're trying to just start with your measurements and just use your measurements. You don't need to do a fitting method or a fitting sizing chart at all.
Yeah. You need one measurement, and it's the Oona measurement, and you just keep that until you want to redo it.
Yeah, until you choose to redo it.
Yeah. Oh, very cool. What advice would you give for people that are in a similar position to yourself, or maybe earlier along in the entrepreneurial kind of pipeline, shall we say? So you've recently finished your PhD earlier this year.
Yeah.
So you've promptly graduated from, an academic pursuit and now into a full-on, commercial enterprise. What advice would you give to someone who thinks they've got a great idea and not sure where to start?
I think one of the things that I think is super, super important is, like, you may have a really good idea, but you need to think about who is going to use that product, or who's the end user, or who's part of that product, I guess, or that idea, and really speak to them. Like, speak to them, talk to them, test the idea with them. So many times we as inventors think we found a problem and we found the solution, and the way we're doing it is the best way. But until we talk to the community or the people who are going to be using that service or that idea or that product, we really don't know, and we could be surprised. That's a lot different than what we think. So I think, really think about your customer and working with your customer is important.
Yeah, because through that you're putting it under an immense scrutiny and oftentimes expert scrutiny, right? Like the end user really is the expert.
Yeah.
And the more input they can provide, or the more input that you can, glean and inform the design of your product, the better, or service for that matter.
Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
really interesting. And any other? Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say another thing is just try and talk to as many people as possible, like about your idea. Networking is, I don't know, I was so like nervous to like go to conferences or network or talk to random people, but it's so helpful, and you don't know what 30-second conversation could lead to, or who they might get you in contact with or in touch with. So yeah, just talking to everyone and anyone, really.
Yeah. I think I've said this before on the podcast, but your network is your net worth, right? You don't know. Yeah. You don't know where like something as innocuous as a coffee might lead in 6 months or 6 years' time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, that's the other thing too. If you want to do it, then just start, but keep at it. It's a lot of perseverance, this game is. Yeah, a lot of times it's easy to like be like, oh, it's too hard, I'll just drop it. But you don't know, like I said, if you had a conversation, you keep pursuing it. A year later, that person may come around being like, I wasn't ready then, but I'm ready now, and I know this other person that could help you, or we have money now, we can help you there. So yeah.
Right, so get to know your end user network and just keep at it.
I reckon. Yeah,
I reckon that's a really good, that's a type 3, that's a really good summary of, I think if you do that,
surely,
provided you've got a good idea. If it's a trash idea, you're probably out of luck. But if you've got a good idea and you hit away at those 3, man, that's a deadly combination.
Yeah.
Dr. Xuxu Amoozegar-Montero, this has been a really interesting conversation. Where can people go if they want to find out more about you or your pursuits, and more in particular, Oona?
Yeah, probably LinkedIn, as bad as that sounds. We're in the middle of making our landing page and have a bit more of a presence, but right now we're just in dry LinkedIn.
Nice.
Yeah.
Are you heading to any conferences anytime soon? Did you go to the MedTech Week this year?
Yeah. We're usually there every year. Yeah, it's really good.
Excellent. All right. Well, thank you so much. And we'll look forward to seeing the product when it eventually comes out.
Cool. Thanks for having me.